Good morning, Indranu.
Morning at last. Somehow my Tuesdays are absolutely jinxed. I tell you, something on the whole week I'm doing nothing, sucking my thumbs, honestly, at this point of time. Tuesday, 10 o'clock, man, it is absolutely, I feel so embarrassed, saying I'm joining. I say, oh shit, I missed it again. But
It's good to have now, and it's good to know that you're busy at least. These times,
and thanks so much for the tips the other day. So I got him lined up with our main director. So they are now talking.
Okay, good. No, they're good guys. Andy's usually on the forum, but yeah, I use them for a lot of bits and pieces.
It's good for him to also know that they are there. So because what happens, most of the time we are just stuck on with those one or two people that we know over the period of time, and we feel that's the beginning and the end of the world, and there is nobody around. So this time was an opportunity, right?
Hi, good morning, everybody.
That's it. That's the idea of a forum as well, that people get to know. Good morning, Simon. People get to know new sources of business and
That's right.
partners and stuff.
Yeah.
How are you, Simon?
Good, busy, trying to catch up on work here.
Yes.
Well, I mean, not the hotel. The hotel is a slow one, but the other businesses seem to be striving.
Morning.
Morning.
Good. That's good. Morning, Lucy.
Hi, how are you all?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You?
Fine.
Good.
Yes.
Morning, folks. Good to see you all.
Hi,
Morning.
Hey,
Barry.
Barry.
Morning.
Has the cold weather gone from there?
Thankfully, yes, it has.
Yes.
We've got a huge thaw in the last kind of 36 hours. So compared to
the roads are getting a good washout.
Well, the roads have now turned into the Grand Canyon. There's massive potholes all over the place. But compared to just 2 or 3 days ago, I've not seen weather that extreme for quite some time.
Today it's almost like mid-spring in Inverness. Absolutely beautiful. No one can imagine that 2-3 days what was happening.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody.
Morning.
I don't want to disappoint you, but I was swimming 2 weeks ago.
Satellite image of Scotland that
Guys, what's wrong?
And it was amazing that the kind of 3/4 of the country was white, just white out, and it was this strip all the way from kind of Sutherland, Inverness, and then down the west coast that was green, and there was nothing at all. I was having a conversation with a connection who's 20 miles down the road towards the Ayrshire coast, and he was like, "Yeah, you're all talking about snow. We've got nothing here, nothing at all." At that point, I was snowed in.
I think our Nessie likes to live in warm waters most of the time.
I don't blame her at all.
Well, just before I came on the call, I was listening to the Eagles and Hotel California. I think that kind of sums up the pandemic. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. It's like, when are we going to open hospitality? Nah, not going to do that.
How about?
Nah. There was a rumor that in April we'll be able to have dining outside.
Well, if it's anything like last April, fantastic. But can we guarantee that?
You can go and have a picnic.
Was that the same rumor, Kevin, that involved opening pubs without selling alcohol?
Yeah, that was the same rumor that was going around, that they were going to open petrol stations without petrol as well, wasn't it?
Morning.
Morning.
Open the pubs up, we can all sell fresh air. Sounds like a good.
Yeah. Look what you could be drinking from this beer pump.
It's the new bullseye promotion. Last year it was eat out to help out. This year it's going to be bullseye.
It's just a joke, isn't it, really?
I was seeing Italy have just appointed a minister for hospitality.
First one?
But yeah, first time they've realised, but actually it's a very important part of their economy, and they've decided to.
200 years.
Well, it all depends how long the government will last.
Right.
About 3.5 days usually in Italy, isn't it?
Every
Depends if
Monday
there's a
and
bank
Friday.
holiday.
Yeah.
I think we should start a campaign. Ban Boris from the boozer.
Mhm.
So when we open up, we just don't let him in.
I could say that for quite a lot of politicians, actually.
Yeah, but Boris and boozer kind of rhyme together.
Come on, our betters.
Most of them would qualify for that, Robin. Maybe we just need to remember where we fit into within the pecking order. I remember one local politician once explaining to me that he had a prioritized list of who were the most important people for him to listen to. It started with pensioners, because pensioners vote in a higher proportion than any other category. He would listen to pensioners, taxi drivers, hairdressers, because pensioners vote, taxi drivers listen to pensioners, and hairdressers listen to pensioners. And that genuinely was his priority in terms of which of his constituents he should pay attention to.
So he obviously didn't go to the pub and listen to everybody talking about what was going on. Because then he'd probably vote for the Republicans as well.
It was the one-time leader of Lincolnshire County Council, and strangely enough, he got booted out shortly after I had that conversation.
Morning all.
Morning.
Morning everybody.
Right.
Morning all.
Just come into 10 now. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope
We're all still here. That's got to be good.
Morning all.
So, what do we think Boris is going to do? He seems to be playing it very cautious.
Resign.
No, thinking. He seems to have suddenly changed. I don't know whether it's because Mr. Cummings is no longer in the pack, or whether it's just that he's realised that perhaps people are a bit fed up of being told about something, and then him backtracking on it 2 weeks later. But any bets on when we're going to open up?
Robin, he'll still be waiting for the focus groups to feedback. You know, they leaked various stories over the weekend, so they've got to see what the Mail and the Daily Express make of it before they actually decide on the policy.
Perhaps he's just waiting for what Rupert Murdoch tells him he's got to do.
Oh, you sound almost as cynical as I am.
Where is Dominic Cummings these days?
We're looking at mid-April, but
sorry, Julian.
I was just wondering where Dominic Cummings was these days. Who if anyone knew what he was doing, because he's sort of disappears off the scene, and clearly was highly influential, straight running the government. And I'm just wondering where he is. Anyone? Probably
hiding in case somebody tries to assassinate him. But
Buying a pub in Castleblanc.
Julian, I think the answer to that is pulling the strings from behind the scenes. I saw him yesterday. I saw Cummings quoted in an article yesterday on social media where he'd been giving evidence to a parliamentary committee, and he described himself as "I am a special advisor," not "I was a special advisor."
Do you think he has just not accepted it then, or do you think he, generally speaking, is?
I suspect he is behind the scenes.
Right.
So wonders of Zoom.
The departure from Downing Street thing was about lowering his profile because he was beginning to. Well, I mean, he is a toxic character. It's not becoming toxic.
Yeah. Oh, toxic! I thought you said something else then.
Anyway, right, moving on. So today, first of all, we have the lovely Lucy giving us some ideas on how to treat our people with the new challenges of the coming out of COVID. So I'll hand over to her.
Thank you, Robin, and good morning to everybody. I'm really happy to be here to talk to you about two of my most favourite things, which is hospitality and people. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm really super happy to answer any questions anyone's got, because I could talk about this subject until next year. But if you could either pop your questions in the chat, or I'll open it up at the end, just so that we can kind of stay to time, that would be fantastic. So thank you. So post-pandemic, where are we going to need to focus? Well, it's no surprise, I think, that we've got lots and lots of challenges ahead. The fallout of Brexit on our people, the changing need of a new workplace, flexibility, new generation of workforce. So I'm going to focus very much on the positives, on the things that we can do and not the challenges, because I think we've probably all had more than enough of those. So who am I? I am Lucy Warman, and here is a little potted history of my journey. So I began my career leading large multinational food and beverage teams at Center Parcs and Norwegian Cruise Lines. I became HR and training manager at the stunning Babington House. And after a couple of years, I was approached, my managers being aware of my previous operational experience, and asked to move into the deputy general manager role. I did this for a year, rose to the challenge, and then remembered that I'd moved into HR because I was very much more passionate about helping the lives of our people than I was helping the lives of our guests. So that's just where I have been. I then, in 2016, founded Surge Ahead. Again, combining my two passions of hospitality and people. So the reasons that I did this were twofold. Firstly, throughout my career, I'd also worked within agency recruitment, hospitality management, and chefs. So the agency recruitment taught me that it was a bit of a false economy, where hotels are paying lots and lots of money for you just to pitch somebody into their business, when there were so many issues before and after that would make the whole transaction, not workable. That there were issues with the pre-recruitment process and engagement and development to have, people to stay within hotels. And as an agency recruiter, there wasn't really an awful lot I could do about those kind of before and after stages. And the second reason that I wanted to set up my own business was I realised, as an in-house HR manager, you're so busy with the day-to-day HR. There's so many interesting challenges, but you don't often get that opportunity to step back, look at the business as a whole, and really see how you can add value. You may have the skills and the experience and the knowledge to add that value, but you don't necessarily have the time. So Surge Ahead was set up so I could help hoteliers find, engage, and develop great talent through effective recruitment, leadership coaching, and bespoke consultancy. So that's just a little bit about me. Back to the main point, hotel life post-pandemic. So thanks to COVID, many of our wonderful EU workforce returned home. Thanks to Brexit, they won't be back, or at least not without a visa. Thanks to lockdown, many people have realised they like being at home at weekends and during the evenings, and may not return to hospitality. So what does this mean for us as a sector? Firstly, a smaller talent pool to recruit from. And secondly, an even greater need to find, engage, and retain good people. So the future of work in hotels will require cross-training and multi-skilling. I think that goes without saying. Three things are going to be key to that: recruitment, engagement, and development. Now, as I said, I could talk to you forever about these three things, and I'm only going to touch the surface of them today. But in terms of recruitment, we need to think about how we're going to attract millennials and Gen Z, the newest workforce on the block. They're not attracted by money or status, but by work-life balance, a need for purpose and sustainability. If we don't have a strategy in place to attract these people into the business, then your workforce planning is not future-proof. We need to get where these guys are. Use your careers page in a dynamic way to showcase your team and prove that you really, really are all about people. You need to maximize social media to show off your people and your values to bring the type of candidates that you want straight to your door. You need to potentially look back at, take this time now to look at organisation structures. Is there any ways that you can structure your departments any better? For example, if you're struggling to find a sous chef, can you look at the kitchen management role in terms of what your head chef's doing? Could you bring in maybe a kitchen administrator to take on ordering, stock taking, rotas, all of the kind of management / admin tasks that the senior chefs are doing, and then free up more of their time to be in the kitchen. So about thinking about the whole organisation, who does what role and how we can do this differently. So recruitment, in a nutshell, is always going to be about effective selection and onboarding processes to ensure that we're getting the right people. In terms of engagement, people-centered leadership is what leads to a motivated and engaged team, which will increase employee productivity and, of course, importantly, retention. So we don't just make our people happier, but we also keep hold of them. And in terms of development, ongoing learning and development of our people will contribute to better engagement and, again, recruitment, retention, whilst providing our future leaders. So going to look at each of these things in turn. So recruitment, we need to clearly define the job description, identify the skills and qualities required. Now, in terms of job description, and that's really, really key that we are honest about what it is we're looking for, and we give a really good idea about what the place is, your hotel is like to work in, what's the culture like, to make sure that we're talking to the right people. Considering the places that your ideal candidates hang out, and target your advertising and sourcing efforts there. Investing time in implementing outstanding recruitment processes. And a key thing is thinking about your employer branding. Okay, what are you known for as an employer? And of course, becoming an employer of choice. So in terms of engagement, it's all about ensuring that our teams have a voice, whether that be through surveys, employee councils, really listening to our people, getting to know our team, trusting them, thanking them, asking them for feedback, providing benefits that they're motivated by. It's not just all about salary, it's all the other benefits, and not, one size doesn't necessarily fit all. Not everybody's motivated by the same benefits. And communicating the goals, mission and values so that it's really, really obvious what you're all about. In terms of development, method to my madness in telling you all about my journey at the start is that I did my university work placement at Center Parcs. I worked around each department, which was just fantastic. I then joined them full-time after graduating and received outstanding management training from them and HR training. They invested heavily in my department, in my development, and they put me through my advanced food safety, advanced health and safety. I qualified there as a trainer. So by my mid-20s, I'd been promoted to a role that saw me leading 12 restaurants and bars and a team of 300. Now, I'm really, really not sure that my career, without this solid grounding and investment and development in me, that I would have got to where I am today. So I think it's really important to step back and look at your own journey, your own career, and think, what worked for you, because the delivery may have changed over the years with technology and all of that sort of thing, but the skills that are so important are still there. So when you're thinking about the development of your teams and the development to put in place, have a think back to those things. So what do UK hospitality employees think? In 2019, 1,006 UK hospitality workers were surveyed. So I think we could probably all have a guess at the sort of things that would have come up on that survey, the sort of things that really motivate people. You might say company policies, pay and benefits, relationships, job security, working conditions, supervision, status. These are sort of generically the sort of things we think motivate people to come to work, to choose an employer. In actual fact, the stark truth was a little different. So the main reasons why people chose to work in the hospitality sector, worryingly, 40% of those surveyed chose to work in hospitality because it was the only available job. So we really need to change the perception of working in our wonderful industry, not helped by TV shows and angry TV chefs. So the positive there, I think, is having the ability to work flexibly. That's the reason that 36% chose to work in the sector. That's a good thing. Clearly, the hours, the shifts, you know, we can always offer flexibility and probably could go some way further in that. A massive concern, 5% chose to work in hospitality sector because of training and development opportunities, and only 3% because of career prospects. These, I think, are really worrying figures, because these are such easy things that we can get right if we only commit the time, effort, and cost of making real change for the future of our people. So how do we do that? Changing the industry one hotel at a time. We need to rewrite the script, need to become an employer of choice, known in your area as a great place to work. How do we do that? So, employee engagement. Look at all the different things that you're able to offer. Here's a little insight into my head. I wonder how many of these you can guess. I am going to go through them. So, thinking about not just the salary that you offer, but incentives and benefits. How you train and develop your people. About the direction that you offer to everybody. Targets that you set to people. What about the shifts and the flexibility? Is there any ways that you can improve that? How do you encourage ideas and innovation? Everybody likes to know that they are a part of a team and can contribute into something bigger. Really key, how do you recognise your people? How do you recognise their contribution and thank them? Achievements, how do you celebrate the achievements? And how do you ensure that people are feel part of a bigger picture? Teamwork, absolutely key. Do you foster a real culture of team working? Communication. Is the communication effective and two-way between your leaders and your people? And do you have opportunities for growth? So those are some of the things that we're going to really need to focus on to engage our employees, who are largely going to probably need to come back from the best part of a year off to hit the ground running. Be remiss of me to, as an HR person, not mention other key considerations for HR in 2021. So I thought I'd just put this up just to make sure that it's on your radar. In terms of the immigration system, as you know, from the 1st of January 2021, we now have a new points-based system. So it is the same for EEA employees as non-EEA employees with regards to visa requirements. So EEA nationals that were living and working in the UK as of the 31st of December must now apply for and obtain either settled or pre-settled status by the 30th of June 2021, or they'll be classed as legal immigrants. Changes annually to national living wage, but also another change with this year Whereas it used to be payable to those aged 25, the national living wage, it's now going to reduce to age 23 plus from the 1st of April 21 with a 2.2% increase. So the new national living wage will be age 23 plus £8.91 per hour. And then you can see I've just popped the others there for you to see. So things to do in terms of these kind of key considerations. If you are considering applying for a sponsor license, do so ASAP to avoid any recruitment delays. If you've not done so already, carry out an audit to identify any employees who need to apply under the EU settlement scheme and encourage them to apply. And also review your recruitment practices, especially right to work checks. So that's, oh gosh, sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Any questions at all? Have I just bamboozled? I'd really be interested, even if there's no questions, to hear everybody's thoughts on our people challenges for 2021.
Lucy, just going back to the foreign workers, etc.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know about the settlement rights. I mean, I've been told that for new foreign workers, that's whether they're from the EU or wherever they're from now, you need to sponsor, you need to be a sponsor. And they're talking about £6,000 per sponsorship. Is that your understanding as well?
It depends on the size of the business. It's actually just under £1,500 per worker. There's obviously costs involved in setting up as a sponsor, and not surprisingly, immigration law is really, really quite complex. So if it's something that you are considering, you're best to get, immigration law specific immigration law advice in order to set it up. But yes, I think I'm not. There are other costs involved, but the initial cost is just under £1,500 per head. So yeah. Okay,
but I mean, this seems. I've just got a feeling that we're sleepwalking into a major problem here. Whereas there was a free flow of workers from the EU, that has now stopped.
Yeah,
they're just not there.
No.
And it's
there
will
also
be
about those roles that you think like kitchen porters. I remember in my days working for Soho House at Babington House, it was when we had almost the first wave of Polish guys coming over with absolute workhorses. I remember going down to the kitchen in the basement saying, guys, you cannot work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week in this tiny little room doing pot wash. Yes, Lucy, because we want to send money home. I mean, that changed somewhat, but even so, I used to advertise jobs for kitchen porters, and anybody that turned up as a British person for an interview, I'd say, why do you want to work here? And they'd say, I don't, I just need to go to interviews so I get my benefits.
Look, I think that's right. I'm really quite concerned that we are sleepwalking into a problem, and the industry hasn't picked up on it. They just think that once lockdown is finished, all the workers are going to come back.
No.
I don't think it's going to happen.
No,
and I really do think it's going to be a problem, and nobody's sort of really highlighting that. I'm surprised that the industry hasn't, the industry leaders haven't really sort of picked up on this.
I think it went under the radar. Brexit was huge, wasn't it, at the start? And then a global pandemic comes along, and clearly everybody's focus is there. And then the whole year, we kind of forgot about the implications of it. And I think so many of our EU workers went home in that time because they wanted to be, not necessarily stuck here. And then if they weren't back on the 31st of December, they can't now come back in without, a visa. It was all about being back here that day or by that day in order to get settled or pre-settled status. And obviously then they can get indefinite leave to remain. So if they're here, it's absolutely fine. But I think we'll find we've lost a lot of people. And like you say, it's gone almost unnoticed with so many of them still on furlough.
No, absolutely. And I think, And of course, the other thing is, you know, they've got to be paid a minimum of £20,500 a year.
Yeah.
So
Unless
your
it's a
low-paid
skill
jobs,
shortage.
yeah, your low-paid, I won't call it unskilled. I think that's detrimental to them. Lower skilled workers, you know, the industry can't afford those salaries.
Yeah.
You know,
and there is another issue. Because I know a lot of people in that market. They're actually very highly a lot of them are very highly educated people.
Yeah,
they actually do have degrees, etc. They just couldn't find work in their own country and have come over here. So now that they have settled status, they will probably, and they've probably learned a bit better, a lot of them will probably want to move into jobs which are actually of their own qualification rather than going back into the hotel industry. So it's not just a case of, you know, the ones who are here will still have them, but a lot of them will find ways of getting into their own professions and likewise will not go back into the hospitality industry. So,
and it's all about as well the future of work. Sorry, Andy, go on.
Yeah, the other issue that someone brought up to me yesterday was with the new Scottish rules. Sorry, my dog's the postman just killed. The new Scottish rules with the tight restrictions around their entry into the country, that any workers that want to come back to Scotland have got to isolate at the cost of £1,750 for the pleasure of it, even just to get back into the country. So, you know, there are people that have left hospitality businesses, gone back to Europe because of the lockdown, and will not come back again because of the cost to come back to Scotland.
Yeah.
And if we are talking about Eastern Europe, no worries, we will drive. That's just for international flights, and the movement between Eastern Europe and the UK is really heavy by the road.
Old work ethic.
That's the point, actually. They haven't mentioned anything about quarantining people who come through the tunnel.
The thing
are they allowed
then? The control between England and Scotland, what they were promising.
Okay, so people who have gone back home during the pandemic, are they allowed, or did they have to be resident in the UK to get settlement? Are they allowed to have settlement rights?
You were allowed to get pre-settlement, a right to work for 5 years. You had to prove you were here working within last 3 months. So most of them went through, that's fine. The thing is that many people who returned back home, and that's speaking from my own community, I'm originally from Czech Republic, is that they will not come back. They moved back home. They do not plan come back to the country. One of the reasons is that the situation is changing and the pound is not strong enough as it used to be back 10 years, 15 years back. So when you compare the salaries with European countries, it's not anymore like, yeah, I will come to the UK, I will do my 3 years and then I'll come back home and build a house. It's not working like that anymore.
So do you share the view, Katerina, that we are potentially sleepwalking into a significant lower skilled worker shortage?
Andy, I wouldn't say sleepwalking. We are running to significant problem because all the hotels you will have to work with people who do not want to do the job. Well, the foreign immigrants, economical immigrants, they are eager to work. That's exactly those 12-hour shifts. Now you will get UK employees who are not so eager to work for low payment. And the question is if there's enough money in the budget to give them a higher payment, which I suspect it's not. So how to get out of it? Would it be like, for example, if you want to work with us as a waiter, you need to do your full rotation and you will start as a KP, so you will know how the kitchen works. Maybe.
Just to answer, I saw in the chat, Mike had a question. with the settlement visas, can we apply en masse for our staff, or do they have to do this themselves? No, the answer to that is they have to do it themselves. It's their responsibility. You can't force that either. You just have to encourage it. And as I said, the best thing is to, you know, get a list together of who needs it and chase. But it's quite a straightforward process. They can do it via an app on their phone. They don't need to send off their passport. It takes the biometric information and a selfie from, you know, from the phone, and they need to answer a couple of questions, and then it comes back in a couple of weeks. So no, you can't do it on their behalf. They have to do it for themselves. And again, Andy, to give a bit more around your question, they needed to be in the UK on the 31st of December, as Katrina said, to have worked, you know, for the previous, you know, for 3 months. They can apply for settled status if they can prove that they've been working in the UK for 5 years without a big break, and pre-settled if it's under 3 years. And then, you know, after the 3 years, they can move to settled. But again, there's stipulations around it in terms of, you know, if they've got a criminal record that's, you know, obviously a bit dodgy, and also within the time they can lose their settled or pre-settled status if they then go home for long periods at a time. And Julian, yeah, absolutely, with the Kickstart scheme, I purposefully didn't touch on that because we heard about that last week. But again, apprenticeships from my side is really, really, really the way forward. You know, I think it's something that we really need to be talking to our young people about, getting them into our industry, giving them the skills and education at the same time. I think particularly given, you know, the cost of university and the debts that these guys are coming out with, I think apprenticeships is a great way to get people in. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions we have.
Just on that, Lucy, while you're looking at your questions, the Kickstart isn't an apprenticeship scheme or a training scheme.
No.
Just to make that clear, it's a scheme to get young people back into the workplace, but it isn't a training. People do confuse that, and they think, why is the government funding this if they're not training these people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is literally get them off the sofa, off the PlayStation or whatever, and get them back into the habit of working, and it gives the opportunity to get this homegrown talent as such, and start to produce that, which clearly we're now going to have to do.
I think the focus there in terms of, you know, in my mind, there's almost, you can do your own apprenticeship, can't you? You know, you've got a hotel, you've got ideal opportunity to get these people in, to create your own apprenticeship, you know, to move them around departments, to multi-skill them, to look at their development and succession planning. And so, yes, there's the formal apprenticeship, and there's also lots you can do yourself. Will we have qualified trainers in all the establishments who look after the apprentices and new starts? Wow, I mean, again, absolutely key. Another subject very close to my heart in terms of, you know, qualified trainers, making sure that you can get those people that have an interest and a skill set trained. And also leadership coaching. I mean, that's absolutely key. Make sure that all of your heads of department have really good, strong, you know, leadership skills. If they don't have them, you know, you need to get them. Fascinating numbers. It's a minefield for sure with the Kickstart, and the cost of sponsors is putting small SMEs and smaller groups off. Yeah, and you know, it's not. It's quite a process, the sponsor thing. I think, Alan, in terms of yeah, the legal costs, and also the costs that you have to pay. It's non-refundable, so if it doesn't happen, you've lost that money. Kevin agreed, Andy. Huge challenge for the industry, high demands from revenge tourism, massive pressure on existing staff. Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, you know, the existing staff that have gone from being on furlough, and, you know, I think in terms of mental health and well-being of our people, I think we need to really understand that our people that are coming back are quite potentially going to be very different people to the ones that left us. You never know their individual journeys, you know, in terms of loss, you know, of you know, family members, friends, and loss of so much other, you know, things in their life, you know, their freedom and social, and, you know, people around them. So I think I've also done actually fairly recently, which I'm happy to send out to anyone if you're interested, if you want it, a kind of a guide almost for bringing people back from furlough. It goes into this bit of a checklist there in terms of some of the health and safety side as well, but it does also talk about potentially you needing to look at reboarding, you know, not onboarding but reboarding, you know, starting from scratch to get these guys back in, and you know, motivated and engaged. So Alan agreed, as an outlay, many are afraid to use the calculate cost of own time in recruitment processes with potentially thousands of, and that, Alan, is gonna be huge. I've done some recruitment recently actually with an independent restaurant in Bath, and I recruited for them, well, I did end-to-end, you know, job description all the way through to their offer and contract for a sous chef. And yeah, you do get an awful lot, and you know, there's a lot of time that's taken, and that's why you need really robust processes, and you need to know exactly what it is, really define what you're looking for in these people, so that it's quite, you know, it expedites that process of going through potentially hundreds of applications when you're applying, advertising.
Lucy,
yeah,
what do you think about, I mean, I work with one of these with these payroll software that also does the recruitment all in one, etc.
yeah.
And it's got the ability to put in all these questions when you're doing the actual onboard, sort of like recruitment, as it were. Have you got this or the other? What do you think as far as using so many questions? Do you think it's good because it whittles down everybody, or do you think it's bad because actually asking a simple question that actually the person has to say no to could lose that person who is actually a very good candidate? It's just that they don't happen to be able to say yes to a certain thing. What do you think about that?
I have used them in the past, but the majority of my time I haven't, and the reason for that is anybody can lie on a question. You know, I could ask you, Robin, do you have any experience in marketing, and you could say, yes, Lucy, I've done it all my career alongside my finance, and you know, at that stage would I know? So there's that side of it. I think there may be benefits to it when you're talking about such a huge volume of applications that may filter some through. One of the main reasons I never did it is because I'd rather make that choice myself than have a computer do it for me. I would rather, but then I've been recruiting for a long time, so I can scan through and know quite quickly a CV or an application and know. But you know, I think it really depends on the experience you've got, you know, and maybe trial and error. I think if an in-house HR manager has got that many and lots of other things to do and lots of other jobs, then it is worth trying it to see if you can filter down. I wouldn't say lots of questions. I think my personal opinion is making that initial recruitment process quite simple and straightforward is much better for candidates, and it speaks volumes again about your employer branding and, you know, how you see their time. I think, you know, personally, when you see people have to go through massive, big, long recruitment processes literally just to get an application in for a job, it doesn't say much about you know, how the employer values them and their time. But just looking back through, encourage everyone to look at Hoteliers Charter. Now, yes, I did want to talk about the Hoteliers Charter, but I had a chat with Sue Williams at Whalley Manor, and it had only literally just launched, so I steered clear of it. But yes, have a look at the Hoteliers Charter. It is all very, very basic things, but if you're not ticking all those boxes, then absolutely should be, and that it is a great initiative. That's Sally Beck at the Royal Lancaster, who, as you know, is Hotelier of the Year, only one ever to be that for the second year running, thanks to the pandemic. But yeah, definitely worth looking at that. Therefore, Julian, we as an industry have to focus on training and development of people. Oh, hallelujah, absolutely. Provide a career path and evidence as good employees. Absolutely, there's just so much that can be done there. The other significant problem is UK worker apathy to undertake. Yeah, I think we boxed that one off. Just going through, what's the name of the app for settlement visa? Don't know, Mike, but I'm happy to find out what the actual name is. It'll be through the government website. Does being on furlough count as working for the last 3 months? Put a newsletter together and can include this information for my staff. Yes, because as on furlough, they were employees. They were fully paid up employees. Well, not fully paid up, but yeah, employees on your payroll. But we have qualified trainers. We've done that one. Okay. I don't know if I'm coming to the end of those. Look at thank you, Katerina, for posting that. And I just wondered, Lucy, can you recommend any third-party reward programs for employees to join to use? There's lots and lots and lots of them out there. I think it really depends on, I would say that that's a much bigger piece than just looking at a reward program. I think that's really about going back to your people and finding out what they want in terms of reward, in terms of benefits, what's interesting to them, what are they going to use, and that can be lots of different things, obviously, for a large workforce. And it's not necessarily one size fits all. And I think it's really key that whatever you put in place is going to be of use and of benefit to everybody. So yeah, there's lots of them there, but I think it's a bigger piece in terms of finding out what it is first of all. You know, it might not just be shopping discounts and things, especially when you're talking about, you know, the new Gen Z. You know, it can be things as simple as, you know, giving them their birthdays off as an extra day's holiday, because it shows that you're important and we value you and your birthday, and have a day off on us and come back and tell us what you did, or, you know, things that don't need to cost a lot of money.
Okay. I think
yeah,
I'm going to
shut me off
there because we've gone on a bit now. If anybody wants to contact Lucy afterwards, I'll put her details in the summary as usual, and do look at that charter. Have you got access to a copy you could send me, and I'll put it in the summary, Lucy?
Yes, it's on a website. I can give you the details of the website.
Brilliant. And moving on swiftly,
thank you.
Another issue which everybody seems to overlook in their hotels, and yet it's actually a big cost, not as much as payroll, but also quite a big cost, and that's energy, and how we can save energy, how we can work around hefty energy bills. So we've got Eddie here who's going to give us some ideas.
Thanks, Robin, for your introduction. I'll spend little time talking about myself other than just the basics. I am a Dutchman living in Scotland. I've been here since 1988. I brought Peperami into Britain and filter coffee. Peperami became a success. Filter coffee became a disaster because Britain drank tea at the time. Spent 25 years in telecoms, did a lot of really interesting things and a lot of pioneering work, created a few industry standards and things like that. And 5 years ago, I got dragged into the utility industry. It was an industry I wouldn't be seen in dead or alive, but here I am. They have managed to get me into it. And really, by looking at the industry in detail, I found that the brokerage market on one side of the house was completely bust, because everybody had been copying everybody else's bad ideas. And on the hardware solution side, the market's equally decrepit, with all sorts of people pelting businesses with quite often the wrong solutions. So we took 5 years, literally 4 years on my side and a year of my wife's time to build a whole new concept. So rather than going into sell mode, which is what everybody else does, we actually took time to assess the market and to create a whole new concept for energy management in Britain and indeed worldwide. The first difference that we have as a brokerage on the brokerage side of our business, because there's two sides of the company, is that we are an all-of-market brokerage. So what that means is instead of getting 2 or 5 or 10 quotes, we actually get, in the case of electricity, 42 quotes. And it means that in terms of pricing, if it was just down to price, 99 times out of 100, we have got the lowest price in our kit bag because we've done the job properly. We are not a brokerage that charges people money. So we don't charge consultancy fees. We don't charge site survey fees. You'll never pay a bill to Gailtel. We are completely free. The only thing we request is if we come to site to meet you and do a site survey, that you give us a cup of coffee. So that's your only investment in engaging with Gailtel. Fairly painless. Basically, the way we see the market is that there is a direct link between your gas, electricity, and water bills and what you actually do to get these bills down. The focus on stupid things like kilowatt hours is completely wrong, because it's not kilowatt hours that come out of your bank account, it is pounds that come out of your bank account. So you need to focus on the bottom line and then from there work your way back. A lot of businesses, due to the lack of government advice, have no clue where all the levies in their various bills have come from, but they are there, they are a pain in the backside, it's a waste of money, and it's only because you're not doing enough to try and do a better bit for the environment. And a lot of people then would say, but oh, I've installed solar and I've done clever light bulbs and all that kind of stuff. But the problem in the market that we see on the hardware side, which is the second part of our business, is that there are too many people who sell a product. They don't actually consult properly because they haven't got enough to consult on. The government has a driver to go to carbon zero, but the problem is, where does the money come from? If I ask people in the hospitality industry today, do you want to invest in smart energy solutions? The answer is no. Even listening to Lucy's report on recruitment, you guys have got plenty of problems without trying to save the planet. And it's a case of, I actually think, just as you try and sort recruitment, there's also a place for sorting the planet and sorting your cost. But you need to do it cleverly and not the way that the industry demands you to do it, because the industry really isn't focused on you, the person who runs and does the most difficult job. The only way to carbon zero and the only way to ever get rid of energy costs is by focusing directly on your usage. All the nice stories that if you take an energy contract, for example, with an energy company that is green, that you then are carbon zero, is a total nonsense. Every kilowatt hour you use and every litre of water that you use makes you not carbon zero, and that is the bottom line. So how do we make it affordable? Well, the situation we're in is we concentrate on the hardware side on what we call macro savings, not micro savings. So I'm not the kind of guy that will tell you to put a bit of isolation on a pipe so that you can save 10 pence a year. I'm sure there is some government body that can send consultants who can sort that for you. But to my mind, that is not time effective and it's not cost effective. What I'm interested in is to chop 10, 20, 30, 50, 100% off your bills. And we can actually do that because we've got the largest portfolio in the UK with 14 products, literally from the simple light bulbs all the way to wind turbines that would cost you about 5 million a pop and everything that sits in between. We've done a lot of interesting things for businesses that I could talk about till the cows come home, but I know time is tight, so I will keep it tight. Just to tie up with something that Lucy said about what attracts somebody to work in the hospitality industry. One thing that sometimes is forgotten about, but it's just one of these products in our portfolio that could be a double benefit, is electrical vehicle charging points. The market by 2030 will have 20 million EV points in Britain. Not only is it good to tie people to your hotel or restaurant, because if they park up their car, they're going to stay longer potentially. It's also an employee benefit, because some employees will eventually buy electric cars, and that could actually be something that you could use as part of your recruitment. So that's just a reverse bit there as a little thought. In essence, the way we work is we are normally visiting a client. We look at their bills for errors to start with. We then, from there, look at their premises to see what they've already done to make their impact on their costs and also on carbon. We then take that back to our office, and that's where the real work starts. We then do the all-of-market brokerage, and as soon as that's done, we then fit in the products that you need to get to the next step. And here is the clever bit. You're not having to pay us anything for these products, right? So you can keep your wallet shut and spend it on recruitment if you want to or something else. But we don't want your money. We don't want you to take a loan either, because the worst thing to do in the COVID period and everything that comes behind that is to make a credit imprint, even if it's interest-free. So our recommendation is that we simply fund your product direct through your energy accounts, interest-free, at a wholesale price. Now, you probably picked that up a wholesale price, not a retail price. We do not charge consultancy fees, we don't charge survey fees, and we don't make a penny out of hardware. So you maybe then say, well, Eddie, where are you making your money? Because you've got to make it somewhere. Well, we get exactly the same we get as any other energy broker for churning your last bill into the next contract. That's where our money lies. But the difference is we do a proper job from beginning to end. We do get your cost base down, and we make the smart energy solutions 100% affordable, because you in essence pay for them while you're saving. And at the end of your next utility agreement, whenever that is, or whenever it starts, it could be years away, you're actually in a situation where you own these solutions. Because we work with UK, Europe, and global market leaders, you'll have the best of products that last a long time with the best warranties. And these savings that we put into place might last with you for up to 25 years. Our longest warranty at present on one of our products is 25 years. So it just shows you how long the saving can go on. Move away from the market where people pelt you with solar, thinking that it is the be all and end all. Solar is one of the smallest savings for most businesses. There is substantially better and bigger things that we can do for your business. And many hotels and hotel groups we come across, we spot savings, even without major investment, of between 10 and 50%. But that's not necessarily with solar being the number one. So the important bit is, because we don't make money out of hardware, whether you spend, you know, a fiver on a light bulb or 5 million on a wind turbine, we make nothing out of that. So you get proper independent advice, which is very important. And all the smoke and mirrors that you come across in the industry are gone. The other thing to remember is, by us wrapping your hardware solutions or your software solutions into your future energy accounts, we are in essence creating a loan through the back door, but it isn't on anybody's record. It's only on your and my record. We also have the capability through the same mechanism to give people in the hospitality industry interest-free loans. We can fund your web design. We can fund marketing that will benefit you straight away, and you can pay it interest-free over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You choose, you're the customer. You can really fund anything. You could do Wi-Fi upgrades, you name it. And if you just say, I need cash for cash flow, we can give you cash for cash flow. So, but a bit like the Second Bank of England. But it is a concept that is different. It's a concept that really none of our competitors have to the same degree. And our commitment to the hospitality industry in terms of acceptance of energy accounts is absolutely second to none. As far as I know, we are the only company in Britain that will create new utility agreements for any business in Britain. Even if their credit rating is 0, we will give you an energy agreement guaranteed without the need for a deposit. That's our commitment to the trade, and it's a commitment that's very popular. For the large accounts, if you happen to have a lot of businesses, or you have a group and you spend quite a lot between your various bits and pieces, we can actually give you a bespoke billing capability, which takes you direct to the market instead of going through the broker market, and that will chop another 7% off your bottom line at the bill side. And finally, on gas, and it's only on gas I can say this hand on heart, if we do not beat your gas renewal price that you give to us, we will give you £100 in cash, guaranteed, because we have the lowest gas price in the UK. On electricity, we go the whole market, as I mentioned earlier. Within our kit bag, we tend to have the lowest price, but you never know. From time to time, we always have some clever clock somewhere who pipes up and maybe can just undercut us by 1/10 of a penny, so fair enough. But gas, certainly we are the market leader and are recognised as that. With regards to any questions or queries or contact details, Robin Williams has got our details on record. So if you're keen to have a further chat with us, look a bit deeper into what we can do for you, we would be very happy to chat or email or whatever suits you. The important bit to know is we are not a marketing company. We don't do Twitter, we don't do Facebook, we don't email market, we don't telesell. We only come to people who invite us. And that's really all I had to say. So thanks very much for listening to me so far. I'm just starting to look at some of the bits and pieces of the chat. Where we work is Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Ireland. We are due to open in the States in August, September. By nature of the fact we do global billing and our product portfolio has global capability, we will end up being a fully global business. But we're focused on the UK, certainly for most of 2021 in particular. Any questions?
Yes, what about the utility companies living in the 19th century with the way that they create your bill, living in kilowatt hours? That's a 19th century thing. And the gas companies that multiply it by this, multiply it by that, divide it by something, and you've got a meter. Surely the meter, if it says 1,000 units, it should be 1,000 units at a given price and not this smoke and mirror thing, which is really meant to bamboozle people. But the people that really know can see all it's doing. It's like a smoke and mirrors thing, hoping that most people will not understand it and will pay the bill at the bottom of the page. They need to get into the 21st century and do away with this archaic system. Surely you must be somebody in the industry that you can talk to say, can we not change this archaic system of billing?
It's a real issue. I mean, having come from the industry that I came from historically, which was telecoms, I used to supply very actively to businesses over 25 years. When I got from the Netherlands into Britain, I couldn't believe what I saw here. I really couldn't. It took a very long time to change a lot of that. And part of the problem behind the industries that we have is that a lot of it is consultancy driven. So if a government party or a government organization like Ofgem, for example, if they are advised by consultants, which often is the case, then it's only going to be as good as the up-to-date knowledge is of that consultant. And I'm seeing the same on a lot of tenders. I used to tender actively into organizations like the RAF, and the specification was 20 years old. And you say to yourself, well, what's the point in buying stuff you're never going to use? Because that was written 20 years ago, and we know from the last 20 years, you're not going to use it, you know? And it's a structural issue in Britain that exists with regards to what's in the bills in terms of content, also how the meters are set up. All of that really should be digital. It should all be online. We're in a situation where with new builds, we can do all that. So if you have a new build office block, if we're in at the right stage, we will actually liaise with the builders, and we can actually give smart technology so that everything you've got in terms of your meters sits directly on the desktop. And you can also then benefit from seeing your usage as it goes. So you have a direct link with actually second by second what you're using, which makes perfect sense. But the industry has a long way to go on this, Cameron. We are far, far behind the curve on modern technology. And supplying a bit here and supplying a bit there, which is what currently is the UK model, isn't going to solve anything.
Yes, but I mean, the introduction of smart meters would have been something to say, let's now get to a different type of billing. You don't have to come and read your meters at any of the big establishments, and many of the households now. It's saving them money, but you know, it's not a case of saying it's done 1,000 units and that's X amount of unit. They still want to bill you in this same way, even although they've moved on with technology, which is great, but it's not benefiting you in any way at all in terms of the way that they bill it. You're still getting all this mumbo jumbo and multiply it by, you know, what do you need to multiply it for? They just need to come up and say it's 20 pence a unit per the meter, or it's 40 pence or whatever, and people will take that on board and say, that's great, I can look at it and it says I've used 1,000 units at 40 pence, that's X amount of money. And simplify it. Not everyone's has the capability to sit and work it out and go, right, okay, and then I've got to put this on as well and add that on and take this off. And it's just terrible that nobody really wants to stand up and fight them and introduce it, even if it has to be done through the government, to say, you'll need to scrap that and we're going on to some new model, which is a 21st century thing. You know, I think in the next century, they'll still be doing it the same because nobody wants to tackle it.
Yeah, I think the problem you've got with smart meters is there's only one reason why smart meters were introduced in Britain. That's not for the benefit of the end user. It's for the benefit of the grid, seeing what people are pushing back into the grid in real terms. It's a spying mechanism. That's not being skeptical, that's factual. the reason why householders and businesses have taken it on is under the umbrella of I can see better now what I'm doing, but it isn't. It's actually a very basic piece of equipment. You'd be far better to have a direct link with your meter on your desktop, laptop or PC. If you, for example, use a half-hourly bill, you can get free half-hourly data real time. And that means actually that when you switch, for example, a fridge on, you can see how much it consumes because of the jump in energy. You've then got real management and real control. But for the average household, that doesn't work. So the government has just gone the cheap route rather than, you know, giving people advice on what's actually free that they could have got instead.
Well, yep. I think that's all the questions. Eddie, for a hotel, what would you say are the key, the sort of like the one big or the two big things that they could look at just to sort of to help?
I would say the thing that pays back the quickest, and this is going on the assumption that we're not talking a very large place, but if you're talking a small to mid-sized kind of hotel, the quickest cost saving that you can get at the lowest investment level is voltage optimization. There's a lot of wastage that you're being charged in your energy bill because you're basically being over delivered in voltage to your site, and you don't need that extra voltage level. At the smaller end, in terms of savings, there are water solutions that are really cost effective, that cost next to nothing, that can make a serious impact. Equally so, there are refrigeration solutions and freezer solutions that, again, are low cost, that can have an immediate impact. So there is a level of different cost levels that you can look at as a hospitality place. You don't need to spend tens of thousands. We're happy to give you advice on even small things that maybe cost you £500 or £2,000 that straight away start to make an impact on your bill. The bigger the place is, obviously, the more there then is a driver to look at some of the higher grade solutions you can get. If you had a hotel, for example, that had probably in the region of 50 plus bedrooms, you might then want to start to look at maybe combined heat and power solutions, for example, which typically chop about 35% off your billing. Do the same also on the carbon zero side. And the good thing is we can supply all that without any upfront cost or any loan requirement. And that's the important bit to remember. You know, you don't need to be out of pocket to get clever.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Eddie. I think I don't think there's any other questions, and we're on 11 o'clock, which is quite strange for us to actually finish on time. But I hope you've all enjoyed hearing both Lucy and Eddie, and I look forward to seeing you all again in 2 weeks' time. Please do contact Lucy or Eddie if you want any more information. They're happy to help, and look forward to seeing you all next time.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for
Thank
the invite. Yep.
Thanks. Special thanks, Lucy. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you. See you.
Yeah.